Hello everybody, so this is going to be YouTube video number 3, and this is going to be focused on why banking and specifically investment banking I still think is the best job you can really get out of undergrad, especially if you're a business kid. Granted, if you're CS, it may not translate as much. Um, but yeah, it gives you skills, credibility, income, and career optionality very early on in your life. So investment banking gets a lot of criticism across every social media platform, and some of it, if not all of it, is very fair and very just. The hours are brutal, the work can be stressful and boring, the lifestyle is not easy. But on top of that, I still do think banking is probably the best first job you can get out of college. Um, so this is not saying that it's the best long-term career. I mean, I don't think I'm going to do it the rest of my life, if I'm honest. But this is about the very first job out of college for 2 to 5 years as you try to find your footing, your friend group, your people, and also just your income. You want to set the floor of it in your career so you can start trying to build on top of that. Um, Early in your career, you want a job that builds very valuable skill very quickly. Banking is hard, but that is why it compounds. And it's not hard in terms of technicality. It's hard in terms of the stamina that it is truly required to take to work 8 to 12 multiple days a week, and even on your slow weeks you're still pulling 60 to 70 hours. It's hard. Um but you're forced to learn faster than you would in any other entry level job. In fact, probably most mid level jobs as well. uh, the question is just whether the pain has a payoff to you. So, as I've kind of harped on, banking teaches you how businesses actually work. You look at companies from the inside, you see the revenue, customers, debt, cash flow growth, you see the contracts, you see the pricing, you learn what buyers care about, you learn what management cares about, you see why one company's valuable and one is not. You start seeing businesses as assets, not just brands. Why recurring revenue is valuable to a PE firm and a lender, why customer concentration can be risky, what EBITDA is and why it matters, why cash flow is more important than revenue, why your cash availability for debt service is insanely important. Um, that's kind of point number one. Point number two is you build the hard and technical skills fast from Excel, PowerPoint, reading NDAs, legal, financial modeling, valuation, research, writing, business cleanup, data cleanup, market analysis, learning how to talk and manage calls, et cetera, manage your inbox. You may not become world class in any one of those, but if you do banking for a little bit, I can pretty much guarantee that you will be better than 95 to 99% of anyone else overall in those categories. If you're only doing valuation at a valuation firm like Kroll, you're probably going to be better at understanding that and understanding accounting than a banker would. But a banker will be better overall. It's kind of like the Swiss Army knives of careers. So the other thing is you learn professional standards extremely early. So attention to detail, responsiveness, work ethic of the stamina marathon that this career is, ownership, clear communication, managing deadlines, how to say I'm handling this instead of letting it up to the ether, taking feedback, not making the same mistake twice. After banking, even during banking, your sense of what is good enough changes. You become insanely polished. You understand how senior people communicate. You become better at communicating, and it's something I'm still improving on in your day to day life. And you understand what high stakes work is and how it gets reviewed. Then, um, the other thing, I'd be hard pressed to talk about banking and not talk about money. Money matters a lot in your early 20s. I have some friends who have 3 jobs that don't make as much as I make in my first one, which is, I'm very fortunate to be in this position and I am greedy and I do want more, but, um, some, or maybe they make as much as I do, but they're working 3 jobs and having to manage 3 different lives, whereas I really just need to manage one. Um, the other thing is it lets you build an emergency fund. I mean, I'm gonna be 23, living alone in one of my favorite cities. You can build savings. You can pay off your students' debts pretty much in 2 years with your bonus. Sorry, you can invest. You can create optionality that other people really don't have in their lives. Money matters a lot because it compounds very quickly early, and once you start having money, that's when a lot of things start to change in your life in terms of what you can and cannot take in a profession or in your life. So your first 50K of savings, great, but then you cross the 100K, net worth, or 200K, and your savings change your options to where, like, right now I could, stop working for a year and a half, pump out 50 YouTube videos a day if I wanted to. They'd be terrible quality, but I could do that kind of deal. Used correctly, the money can create freedom and not just lifestyle. Now, granted, it is still fun to go out and, get a couple drinks for some girls, or go to a nice dinner with your friends, or go do a great trip, or go do an experience with people. But you can really start to give yourself freedom. The other thing is, it does give you credibility. People understand it's hard to get into, and people understand who get into it have certain signals, such as hard work, you can handle pressure, you have some finance training, and it helps with recruiting for other roles, such as private equity, corporate development, growth equity, credit, hedge fund, startup, corporate finance, even going into business school, getting your MBA, entrepreneurship, or even making online content like this. Banking is a credibility stamp. It does not give you the right to anything, but it lets you be taken a little bit more seriously by certain people. Just because they've either been through it themselves and they understand the training ground. Because, for lack of a better word, some weeks you don't sleep for 2 to 3 nights. A little bit ago, I had some actual, 8 a.m. to 6 a.m. nights, and I'd come home, I'd shower, I'd sleep for 30 minutes, I'd get up, and I'd go back to the office. It's terrible. But a few people have been through that in banking. Everyone's had an all-nighter in banking, I can confidently say. And once you have one or two of those, you start having so much more empathy for people who are doing this. Yeah, it makes you a little more serious. The other thing it does is it creates optionality, and this plays into your savings quite a bit, but I would say it's probably the biggest reason beyond money that it's valuable. I still don't know. I'm 23 right now, and I have no idea what I want to do. I'm doing this to try to create some more optionality for myself, and kind of have these either, hopefully blow up and I start creating a following and I can start building a community or something, or I can stay in banking and I can continuously, build and compound. But you don't know what you want to do when you're 21 in college. You don't know what you want to do when you're 22. But it keeps a lot of doors open. You can stay, you can go buy side, you can go corporate, you can start something, you can use the skills and money to build your own path, which, if you're making $60,000 a year in LA, living with 4 roommates, you really don't have. If you're making $150 in LA as a 23-year-old, you're living alone, you have more time, you have more freedom to yourself, you have more time to think. That's where it really starts compounding. A lot of first jobs I've seen from people will narrow them into a lane. So if someone goes like real estate, corporate finance, for example, they kind of either stay in corporate finance or real estate, and it's really hard for them to switch into like tech. But if you've done investment banking, even if you've done consumer or you did healthcare, it's not insanely difficult to switch industries, because you see so much. Banking will often expand your options rather than limit them. The trade-off, however, is real. The hours are brutal, the job's stressful, you sacrifice sleep, social life, personal time, relationships. It's very tedious. It is not for everyone, and I can make a pros and cons video about this. But if you treat it as a platform and not a life, it can be worth it. The mistake is making it your identity. I mean, if I'm at a bar and I'm talking to someone, I just say I work in finance, and I don't really elaborate beyond that. But it's better to see it as a launch pad or a frame. If you're a student deciding whether banking is worth it, I would think through 4 questions. Do I want a very steep learning curve, and do I want to get hounded by people who are insanely senior and make a lot of money a year? Am I willing to trade lifestyle early for skills and options later? Do I want to understand businesses and deals? Would higher or earlier income give me flexibility later? If the answer is yes, banking is a very hard job to beat. It's not perfect, it's stressful, repetitive, yada, yada, yada. I do recommend it. You become a fantastic marketer, but establish real optionality early on. That's why, even with all the criticism out there, especially, very well-deserved criticism, I still think it's easily the best first job someone can get in business. yeah, thank you for listening. If you've made it to this part of the video, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.